Hello and welcome to the Walk in Love podcast. I'm TJ.
And I'm Brooke.
And today we are going to talk about the life-changing habit of Sabbath.
The Walk in Love podcast is a weekly conversation between TJ and I about emotions, rhythms, marriage, parenting, usually a lot of giggling about body sounds sometimes, and faith. And it's a place where we laugh and sometimes cry as we find language to live a full life.
Amazing. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making us a part of your week. We are so happy that you are here, you beautiful, wonderful butt clenchers. And if this is your first episode, you'll understand that joke at some point. So a few weeks ago, Brooke and I discussed, and thank you for listening. Thank you for watching on YouTube.
Oh, backtracking.
I'm going to backtrack.
Looping around. Okay.
I'm going to go back to YouTube, the YouTubes. Also, if you ever want to comment on an episode specifically, YouTube is the place to do that. So if you listen on the podcast, like on your commute or while you're walking your dog, or those are my favorite messages, the ones that are like, hey, I walk my dog and I'm laughing and then I'm crying. I think my neighbors think I'm a psychopath. Glad we could help. But if you want to comment on an episode specifically, we always link the YouTube in the show notes. So wherever you listen, you can click on the YouTube link and then go comment specifically there, because that's encouraging to us to know that, hey. And then the other thing that we do is we give away a free t-shirt every week to someone who shares about the podcast. And normally it's on Instagram and tags us. And honestly, not many people take advantage of that or do that, which is like, no, that's fine with me. But I say that
I feel like you're competing with like 5 to 10 people a week, maybe.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure the same people have won a few times.
It's possible.
So if you ever want to share about an episode, do it there. Tag us, tag the Walk in Love, tag just the Walk in Love Instagram, or the Walk in Love podcast Instagram, or both. Both is probably the best option.
Yeah.
And then maybe tag Oprah and see if she's interested. No, I'm just kidding.
I was just outside Oprah's gate the other day.
Oh, yeah, you were.
Here on Maui.
Nice.
It's crazy. It's like you wouldn't know it from any other one until you walk down and then she was there.
Yeah.
Then you'd be like,
I think this is Oprah's house. So yeah, that's a great place to do that. And also I find it super helpful when people are like, I love this part of the podcast, because then I'm like, okay, that's what people resonated. That's what I'm going to make a video of.
Yes.
Which I'm a little bit behind on making the videos for our Instagram, but
right.
All that to say, comment on the YouTube and you can win a free t-shirt if you share about us, which is great.
Yeah. Something you did this week that was really cool is,
the charts.
Well, the charts was funny. We can circle back to that. No, was the subscriber chat. So on Instagram, which you've heard us talk about, you can now be a subscriber.
Go to www.google.com. In the Google bar, search Instagram.
Instagram
will pop up. Then you have to log in. First, if you need to create an account, you'll have to create an account.
Sign in or
Sign
new?
In.
New create
then
account.
Then once you create an account, search Walk in Love.
Anyway.
I go online. I go click, click, click.
With subscribers, and I think you might have mentioned it last week about something else, but we can have like subscriber chats that last for 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So
we have one right now.
Put up a box yesterday that was like, talking about this week's episode and then you can like opt in, you like start typing and get into the chat. And it was so nice. Everybody's talking about
This is episode
stuff.
145.
I tried to look at the, I saw that box was up and I tried to get in and then it said, you need to subscribe, because I guess I was under my other account.
Come on, Brooke. Get on it.
I had a moment of like, oh no. And then I was like, oh no, wait, I'm just not logged in. Okay, it's fine. So I went online and I Googled Instagram. No, I just think that's really cool.
Yeah, it was fun.
Because it's fun to like share about it and talk about it, but not be stuck in a group chat for all of time.
Yeah.
It's like it's done then.
You have a specific group chat?
No, I mean, it's fine, but it'd be nice if they expired naturally after 24 hours. I just think maybe all group chats could adopt that.
Just across the universal law.
Just across the board.
If a politician was running as that as their campaign, all group chats expire after 24 hours? Are you
I'm voting.
For real?
So I'm going to go online. I'm going to Google, how do I vote? Register to vote. No, I'm just kidding. I'm registered, people. It's okay. Yeah. I have a review of the week.
Okay.
Or did you want to talk about the charts?
Before you get into the review, thank you for shopping the Christmas collection. Those of you that did, we're incredibly grateful and super thankful for you as customers. And yeah, we just really, really appreciate it. So thank you. We're working hard on getting all that stuff done, and so we can get it out to you as soon as possible. And the only other bit of news that I have is to mark I have 2 bits of news. One, mark Black Friday weekend on your calendar.
Mark it off in the calendar.
Especially if you are a huge podcast fan.
Yes.
I'm trying to be cryptic, but I'm also trying to just make sure that you know. Because what we're doing is extremely limited.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure that
geared
towards the butt clenchers.
Yes.
Like the buttiest of butt clenchers.
Okay.
I don't know if that works. The clenchiest of butts. It's geared towards that.
Okay. Yes. Give it to me.
And so that's one thing. And then the other thing is we were debating, we were going back and forth. Hold on, I'm looking at my calendar. We were going back and forth.
Oh, we were snip, snap.
Yeah, on what we were going to do with the Christmas extravaganza live stream, because we're doing the 2 events that are sold out December 22nd and 23rd.
In person in Pennsylvania.
Which is amazing. And then I was like, well, what if we just did it all at once? We started talking about that idea. It sounded stressful to like both be like, because we're a small team. It's just Brooke and I. We'll have some help from family and friends while we're in Pennsylvania, but it's not like we have, like a tech guy and
team.
all this kind of stuff. So we've decided that we're not going to live stream the live events.
Correct.
The live events are going to just be for the live
humans
people
that are there.
The human beings that are in person. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have just a live stream, a Christmas extravaganza live stream.
Yes.
Like we have in the past for our online audience.
Yes. And will we, I'm figuring out this live and asking you a live question to clarify. Do you know what I'm going to ask?
No.
Okay. But if they've purchased a ticket, can they still win online?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Double prizes.
Okay.
So the live stream will be December 2nd, which I think the last 3 years it's ended up being the first Friday of December. I think that's just sort of where we default land it. So December 2nd live stream, it'll probably be around like 9-10 o'clock Eastern time. And if you don't know what that is, you're just new here, you can go to our YouTube and we have a few live streams that you can watch. But basically, we just give away prizes all night and answer questions and have fun. And last year, people called in, which was cool. So maybe I'll try to organize some call-in guests.
Okay, that'd be fun.
And so so those are the 2 bits of news that I have. That's it.
Nice.
Take it away. Review the
charts.
Week. So every week I get an email. Well, we use this thing called Chartable. It's like this free service online where you can go, and I basically use it to find reviews. Like it'll show you the newest reviews.
It is an easier way to sort.
So it's
reviews,
I just go there and I sign and I we have a login and I look at reviews, but it tells you. I Google Chartable. I Google and I click, and then it shows me where we're charting, which I find funny because we are in the category Christianity. Yeah. Religion and spirituality is like the blanket category.
The huge umbrella.
And then we're in the Christianity category within that. So you can pick 2 categories. You have like a blanket one and a because you could be like pop culture, television, pop culture, music.
Right.
And so we're religion and spirituality, Christian. And so we've never charted in the US.
Right.
Because we're up against like massive mega churches.
Yeah.
So it's just like, mostly it's churches that are in the like top 200. Cause it's like, once you get to 200, you're on the charts.
Okay.
Little podcast back end info.
So we're at like 205.
Probably. Yeah. We're 201, 202, somewhere in there. Okay. Good. At first our category was relationships and we charted with relationships.
Right.
But Brooke didn't like it. So we changed it to Christianity. And so we've never charted in the US, but it tells me the countries that we're charting in. And so this week, 191. So you can chart in your like overall category, religion and spirituality. So like if a mega church is number 1 in Christianity, they like the sermon, they might be number 5 in religion and spirituality.
Got it.
Like you can be different places in both.
Got it. Okay.
So in religion and spirituality, in the whole category in South Africa, we're in 191.
Yep. Okay.
No big deal. So that means that by default, we're going to chart in the Christianity section.
Yes.
So we're 145
No
in
big deal.
Christianity in South Africa. So thank you, South Africa. In Slovenia, we've dropped 3, which is a little disheartening because I feel like the fan base in Slovenia was just getting off the ground. 171 in Christianity.
Where is Slovenia?
It's in Europe.
I knew that much.
And in Antigua and Barbuda. Sounds
Barbuda's not a place.
Barbuda. Antigua and Barbuda.
Bermuda?
No, it's Antigua and Barbuda. Read what that says.
No, I
That is
see what it
copied
says.
and pasted from the website.
Barbuda.
I know
We've been to Bermuda.
I know, but it's a different country.
No, I know it is.
Google it. We're 174, and then in Japan we've dropped off the charts. So those are the updates on where we're charting.
Barbuda, I'm not 100% sure we're saying it right, but is an island located in the Eastern Caribbean, forming part of the sovereign state of Antigua Barbuda.
Yeah.
Located north of
Are you
Antigua.
saying see the
Antigua.
world
Uh,
or Sea World?
It's part of the Leeward Islands. That sounds like, oh my word, what's that movie? Moana. They're always talking about the different directions of things in that movie. Anyway, there you go. Update on my Moana thoughts. Anyway,
That's where we're charting. So
Yeah,
thank you.
I'm pretty proud of us.
Thank you, South Africa. Thank you, Slovenia. When we posted that we fell off the charts in Japan, we had someone message us and was like, I just moved from Japan to Colorado. So that might have been my fault.
That's the one listener. Guys, don't move, okay? Or all move back to the U.S. and then
or
maybe
all
we'll chart
move to
there.
Slovenia. And let's get a
And
ground
top.
in
We'll top the
Slovenia.
charts there.
So go online, Google where is Slovenia.
Yes. Apartments in Slovenia.
I know a guy. I'll get you a great rate.
I have a review of the week.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, title of the review, Back Up the Money Truck.
Whoa.
5 stars. Back up the money truck. This one is worth it. Brooke and TJ never fail to put a smile on my face and remind me that I am not alone in walking through life's challenges. They bring joy, laughter, and a few tears as they wholeheartedly share their love for Jesus and life lessons that will help us all to make the world a little bit better. Thanks for being a light. Okay, I love you. Bye.
Nice.
My main giggle was the back up the money
Did
truck.
I tell that story?
We have, yeah.
Okay.
Several times.
Yeah. All right.
And
It's like, man, that's an obscure reference.
right, are they here? Chelsea B, are you here?
Okay.
All right.
Cool. All right. So today, well, how was your week?
My week was good. I cannot believe it was a week ago since we recorded.
Yeah.
It just, I
Time is
feel
flying
like
by
we
right
just did this. And we kind of did in a sense, but my week was good. My week was way less emotional than the week prior.
Yep.
So cool.
That's cool.
That's doing better. Yeah, I feel like I can, I'm functioning more like myself again. Just like I can see parts of the kitchen. We can see our bedroom floor again.
It's nice.
The girls' room is picked up, which is funny. I'm describing all just like, and that's what that is part of what I felt that like 2 weeks ago when we had to get a 2-week collection ready in 2.5 days, quite literally nothing else mattered. And so the house just felt like, and when we get ready for a collection, we're already shuffling and moving.
Yeah.
It's already a time where the house gets like not torn apart, but just moved around.
Especially the upstairs.
Yes. And so just feeling a little bit better about all that.
Pretty normal week.
Yeah, I've been to the aquarium twice since I spoke to y'all last.
Nice. We also are just like, we've hired Abby to assist us in our house. And that has just been an absolute
game changers. Changes to the game such that the game can never be played the same way again.
Yeah, it really is.
Because we homeschool, because we work from home, like Brooke's like, man, how are we ever going to get things done? I'm like, well, a lot of people send their kids to school, so they're gone all day. So like that's when people would normally get some stuff done.
Right.
Well, we made the decision that, hey, we're not going to do that. We're going to homeschool. And so it has just been so helpful to have Abby at our house.
Yeah.
Because we're recording the podcast on a Thursday instead of a Sunday when they watch a movie. Like they're just downstairs playing, Daisy's napping, and so that has just been like, it feels like one of those things where it's like a bell curve. Like it's like, oh, this is helpful. And like, it's sort of helpful. And now I'm starting to feel like,
I'm starting to feel the like
word.
compounding
Yeah.
effects of it being so helpful. And so my encouragement to anybody listening, specifically moms,
Yeah.
like find help in some way, shape, or form. I'm not saying you need to hire somebody
Right.
every week like we just did,
Yeah.
or, she's not here all day, but like, it doesn't have to look like that. But there are like, you can get somebody to come do cleaning and housework so that you can be with your kids. Or
Right.
if you're like, I actually love cleaning and I'd love somebody to play with them really hard or take them to the park.
Yeah.
Like, it can look however you
Yep.
want it to look. Don't overthink it, but don't underestimate the power of the mental margin you will get back by not being the only one.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying your husband or spouse isn't helpful. I don't mean it like that,
Yeah.
but there is still stuff that's just only in my brain that I'm like ticking off, and you do it for work.
Yeah.
And I do it more for the household. And so, wow.
Yeah. It's just
I feel a little bit like, there she is. There's Brooke.
It's just been
She's back.
really, really great and super helpful. And like, I have friends that like, they've hired someone to help to just do their laundry, or they've hired someone to just clean their house once a week, or like, you know, and it's just like, it can look a bunch of different ways. And I think the first thing people go to is like, oh, I can't afford that. And it's like, well, you might be able to, you might free up time getting rid of this task that allows you, like for us, it's like, wow, we freed up a lot of time to work more, to make
Which
more
makes
income,
us
and
that's
so
how
like,
we make money. We work.
you got to determine the return on the investment of how much it costs. But yeah, I remember my first time at Integrated, it was like 3 years ago, which is crazy. And, one guy mentioned it, and like 4 or 5 guys were like, oh yeah, we do that for this. We do that for this. We do that for this. And I was just like,
it was like somebody's comment kind of opened the
Yeah,
gate
and it was
of like,
like-
oh yeah, we're not all doing this on our own. We have help.
and you could just see guys in the room just be like, oh, that's allowed. And like, if you would have asked them, they'd be like, oh, of course that's allowed. But it was just like this like
is.
permission to explore the option and like tinker with it. And so like for the last year and a half, Abby's been helping like 1 day a week. And so now it's more, and it's just like, I feel like we've just like,
Yeah. I do think there's some weird cultural pressure.
100%. We are.
I know
Yeah.
there is a weird pressure to not only do it all, and
Yeah.
I mean all, but to also do it all yourself.
100%.
To be totally girl boss, self-sufficient. You got this.
Yep.
Mama warrior. And I'm not throwing any of those specific phrases under the bus necessarily, but just like,
I would throw dog mom under the bus, but
not the actual dog, just
Not
just the phrase.
just
Okay, good. Whew.
Oh, and just like that, half our audience is gone.
Yeah, and they're gone. And America has just dropped off on the charts. Some random other place starts charting though because they don't like dogs. Sweden, known for their hatred of dogs, started listening to the Walk and Love podcast. No, yeah, it's this thing, and it's like it feels like, I don't know. I remember when we started hiring, even when we lived in Pennsylvania, somebody to clean the house on Fridays.
Dodo.
For the longest time, I cleaned on Fridays, and I loved that, and I loved what that did to set up our weekend and for our Sabbath, which we'll talk about shortly. But it did get to the point where it was like, I'm spending my whole day doing this.
Yeah.
I think we could afford someone who would like the job and could use the money, and like, and I remember feeling like, oh yeah, we have a cleaning lady on Fridays, and like, that's weird that like, one, that means I'm insufficient, I'm not
Right.
capable, or I'm too overwhelmed that I
Right.
can't do it, or that we're like super rich. We have a cleaning lady. And I'm like, well, we're not that either.
We do have a garage fridge now, so.
We do have a garage fridge now. It's half size, but it's fine. Yeah. Or like, I don't know, like, and neither of those was really accurate.
Yeah.
It's just like, no, it would be really helpful to our
Yeah.
family and our family's mission if we had help in this area,
Yeah,
and
and
to
then
not overthink it.
and what's super cool about like Integrated specifically is like I was telling some of the guys were texting me, and I was telling them that this was happening, and one of
What was happening?
that we were getting Abby to work more for us, and one of them was like, and this is why I love this group so much. It was like, make sure, like, what we found was like we were so relieved to like have more time, but then we felt like it started to disintegrate our family. Like the kids were too much, like she was doing too much with the kids, and like we weren't engaged in their lives. And so that's just like the balance that you have to strike. It's like, we're not hiring a new parent. We are still
no.
parents, and we want to live in an integrated family. you know, with a strong family identity, and we don't want hyper individualism to like ruin our family culture.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how do you do that? And that's where it's just like, if you have that like careful mindset, like the first thing we told June and Sunny when Abby was starting to hear is like, Abby is not your servant. She does not do things because you ask her to do things, like, you know. And so we just like, it's allowed us to have some conversations, and it's just been super helpful, and we're just super grateful for it. And so like, yeah, it's like another, I don't know who needs this permission, but like, you know, but I'm going to give it to you, even if, you know, I don't need to give it to you, is like tinker with what that might look like. Have a conversation about what that might look like. Yeah. And if you feel like you're drowning in the chaos of life, like, you know, historically, you would most likely be living with like a parent, grandparents, you know,
or your neighbors
nieces
would be
and nephews,
part of your
and
family.
like there would be a village to help
Literally.
you know, with the things that you need in your life. And now Western culture has gone hyper individualistic. Even within families, we're even individualistic within our family. Yeah. And then with like, so it's like, oh, well, I can't ask for help because of yada, yada, yada. Right. And it's like, that is actually not the way it's been for thousands of years. And so, yeah, I feel like it's been such a game changer for us that like, I know there's probably 4 people listening that are like, this could be a game changer for me. Yeah. Not in Japan. Yeah. But maybe in that one in Colorado now.
Yeah. And I kind of shared ish, like when Lindsay came over and helped me clean that time. Yep. And I shared on our stories like a time lapse, and I typed out just that, you know, I'd asked somebody to come help me clean, and she said yes. And like, I was paying her, I mean, not a ton, but it worked for us. And then a lot of people were interested in that, the idea of like trading services with friends, and like, how do we start that conversation? Even that feels weird, you know, which is silly. Yeah. Like individually, we'd all be like, that's not weird. I wouldn't find that weird if somebody asked me that. And then we get in a group and we're like, I don't know. I mean, I'm fine. I don't really need any help. Meanwhile, we're like drowning in life.
I think one of your best ideas you've also had, which I need to follow through on, is for me. So I have friends that live on island, and we all have homes that we want to do stuff to. And it's like, what if we once every 2 months, all of us went to one guy's house. Yes. And we're just like the labor for whatever project you wanted to do. And then a few months later, all those same guys went to the next guy's house.
Right.
And we're like,
knocked out that project.
And then, you know, like I just feel like that's such a cool idea, but you could do that with cleaning. Like, okay, we're going to
You could clean, or another, like you could do it with anything. You could do it with cleaning. You could do it with meal prep. Yeah. Like I have friends who the one person hates cooking meat and but they eat meat, and the other one hates like the chopping and the vegetables. And so they literally prep. So they eat the same thing every week, and they prep each other's alternative stuff, because they just like, and it just saves time. And then I have seen the idea of like what do you call it? Like a babysitting, a date night train, a babysitting train, where you have a couple families that you know well, that you love, that you trust, and you want your kids to get to know each other. And so is it sheer chaos at the one house where you drop 4 families worth of children? Absolutely.
But it's just for one night.
And it's just for a few hours. And then all those other families get to go out, or couples get to go out while the one family watches the kids. And then you just shuffle, and the kids get to know each other. And it's just like kind of built in, and you're asking your community versus keeping it super individualized and alone.
So
anyway,
side rant. Tangent.
Not rant. It's a good thing.
Yeah. But so your week was good.
My week was good. Was it? Wow. Is this how we got here?
My week's been great. Thank you for asking. Over a year ago, Brooke and I bought tickets to the When We Were Young music festival in Las Vegas. We thought, hey, we're going to go to this. It's going to be like, we'll figure it out. This is a problem for future Brooke and TJ, but current Brooke and TJ are all in.
Yes.
Well, future Brooke and TJ realized that it was a little tight in the pocketbook. How do we get, like, our kids going to be okay to have 3 days of babysitters? It's right by Halloween, and like
we have to be back in time.
Like, it was just a lot. And so we decided, and then we were going to go with friends, and they were like, hey, we can't go, because they had sort of a similar scenario of like, they ended up traveling a ton, and they were just like, we just can't do another trip.
Yeah.
And so we were like, okay. And then the collection happened, and we were kind of late to the game to sell the tickets, because like it is in Las Vegas, so it's not just like people can just go, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so collection finished, and I was just like, the collection finished, the first weekend of shows. So they had, it's
a festival, but you can come to like day 1 and 2.
23rd, 24th, and then they
or
added
later,
the 29th.
They added the day 3 way
and
later.
So I remembered that, and I was like looking at the videos, and I was like, oh man, this looks awesome. And I was just like getting hyped for it. So then I asked Brooke, I said, hey, what do you think about me just going? Mm-hmm. And you were like, I don't know. Do you want to go? What do you think? Like, how much it would cost? All this kind of stuff. It's like, well, we have the ticket. I have miles. So so my plane ticket was $11.
Yep.
And I was like, I could do it without a hotel room. It would be horrible, but I could.
No,
so
don't do that to yourself. That sounds awful.
So I found a cheapish off the strip hotel room. So I'm leaving tomorrow. I get into Las Vegas at midnight. I will go straight to my hotel room, sleep. Mm-hmm. Festival starts at noon. I'll go to the festival, party hard all day, rock and roll all night, and then go back to my hotel, sleep, and then leave the next morning.
Yeah.
So it's like a super quick trip.
Very whirlwind trip.
Yes. And so I text my brother and Mark Kark, and I asked them if they wanted to go. And my brother was like, I can't. He had some work stuff. Matt had a wedding to shoot, so he couldn't go. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'll just go by myself. Like I'm not afraid to do something like that by myself. And then I thought of the Swamp Dragons, and I was like, I should invite
I have more friends.
some of those guys. Yeah. So I FaceTime my friend Jeremy, and I'm like, hey, I did this.
He's in the car, and he just answers, hey.
In the car. Jeremy's about as 7 as you get.
On the Enneagram.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
He's one of my favorite people on planet Earth. And I go, hey, do you want to go to this music festival in Las Vegas with me this weekend? I know he goes, yes. Like, I don't.
He's like, yeah.
Yeah, I do. And
yeah.
I'm like, it's like one of those things where you're ready to explain it, and then someone answers before you even give any explanation. You're just like, can I still explain what I was going to say?
Yeah. Like, do you need to know dates, or you have a wife and kids? Do you need more information?
And he was like, I was like, you should probably ask your wife. He goes, yes. And I was like, all right, I'll text you the details. He goes, okay. That was essentially the conversation.
Yeah. You got off FaceTime, and I was like, that was like a 14-second FaceTime. What just happened?
And so text him the details. He texted me a few hours later and was like, I'm in. So meeting Jeremy in Las Vegas, leaving tomorrow, and I'm super stoked about it. There are 5 bands that I've never seen on the docket
that are playing that day.
So
there's a lot more than 5
there's
bands
a lot more
playing,
bands,
but you've seen a bunch of them.
I've seen a lot of them. So Seosin was a band that I was really into in college. They were going to come when I went to Colorado State. They were going to come. I worked for the radio station. I was going to get to talk to them and interview them. Mm-hmm. They broke up a week before. Never saw them. They got a new singer. They made new albums.
In Slovenia. So they were like, we're out.
We're out. What's the point? And so they've had a new singer. Then they went back to the original singer. And so they're all back together. They're going to be there. Wow. Super excited. Very heavy band.
Not into it.
Brooke's not into it.
Unsubscribe.
But because of their deep connection to emo TJ, I got to see him. Dashboard Confessional.
Lip ring TJ.
We're
talking,
TJ. Yeah,
okay.
Lip ring TJ.
Just to clarify.
Swoopy hair TJ. Dashboard Confessional. Never seen him.
I've seen Dashboard.
So super stoked about that. Right at you.
I'll never forget it.
Chris?
My whole life.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
So I'm super stoked about that. Paramore was going to play at Purple Door Music Festival.
Yes, I know.
Their van broke down.
Yep.
They didn't make it. So excited to see them. Avril Lavigne was supposed to be there. She got cut. She was I would have gone and watched. I mean,
it's Avril. Come on.
Who's going to say no to Avril? So she can't come to the 29th show. So they added Death Cab for Cutie. Another one.
Probably, yeah. I know all of Avril's music. Yeah. I was going to say I know more of Death Cab's music.
I would put Death Cab over seeing Avril Lavigne because of my personal taste.
Yeah.
I would have been excited to see Avril because I feel like it would have just been fun and kind of kitschy.
Kind of I never thought I'd see her. Yeah.
This is, and then.
Is it her though?
Abby. No,
this is new information. This was not new information to me. I already knew all about this.
Apparently, there's a conspiracy theory that at some point the real Avril Lavigne passed away.
Yes.
And they found someone that looked just like her to be her?
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
I know.
Come on.
I know. Right?
Well, I don't know. I'll ask her. Well, she's not going to be there. Maybe she's getting rejuvenated. Who knows?
A lot of options.
And then at the top of the list, the band I'm most excited to see that I never actually thought I'd see is Jimmy Eat World.
That's the one that I'm like, should I go? Should I stay? I should. Yeah.
So
I would really like to see Jimmy Eat World. They're probably in my top. That's so hard to say a top amount, but like, just like, probably in my top 20 of like all life. If I think about,
wow.
I mean, right though,
100%.
like how much I still listen to them,
Yeah.
but how much I used to listen to them.
So super stoked. I can't believe Jeremy's coming. I just keep being like, I'm going to hang out with Jeremy for 2 days. This is incredible.
Do you think you'll go get ice cream at Ben and Jerry's?
I think there is a chance for redemption.
Yeah.
It's like the number one message I've received as I've been.
Yeah.
By the time the
Ben and
podcast
Jerry's
comes out.
makes very good dairy-free ice cream now. The question is it in their shop? But you would think so.
By the time the podcast comes out, people will
You'll
see.
know. We'll
People
already
will
know.
know. So
The people will know.
the people will know what has happened. So
Wow.
that's what's happening. And I'm very excited. That was my week. Like just kind of understanding that is happening. My week has also just been like planning for some of the end of the year stuff and having like the mental capacity to plan all that stuff, which is
It's a
very
nice feature.
exciting. Again, the game changer of Abby. But today, what we're going to talk about is, so Brooke, we recorded an episode 2 weeks ago, 143. We're on 145 right now.
Mm-hmm.
The
I don't know how many weeks ago.
changing habit of deciding ones.
Mm-hmm.
And so we thought it'd be fun to do a series on the life-changing habit of fill in the blank. And just like some of these things might be super deep and like thoughtful, and some of them might be like really simple, super practical ways to live life. And so, you know, I would say we're going to start with one that is both.
Yeah.
Both and.
Yeah. My favorite.
And probably one that has, I would say, changed our lives the most over the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the life-changing habit of Sabbath, of taking a Sabbath.
Yeah.
And so,
which we've talked about before. So if you're listening and you're like, oh, they've talked about this a bunch, I don't need this episode. Well, that's fine. We won't chart and it's okay. If you stop listening, but it's whatever. It's not your responsibility, but
if you are in Slovenia though, just let it play in the
Hold
background.
on. No, but if you do feel like we've talked about it, I mean, we have, and for good reason, because it has been life-changing. So I think this episode could either be a reminder of like, oh yeah,
it's worth
I'm
it.
doing this and I'm going to keep going and this is great. Or I think it could be hopefully like the what's the phrase? The straw that
breaks the camel's back.
Yeah. It's
like
kind of an intense phrase, but
yeah.
Hopefully this is the gentle
Tipping
push
point.
off the edge. I mean, hopefully.
Hopefully this is the shove you need off the cliff.
Not Rushmore on your way down.
Okay, so our Sabbath journey, I'll paraphrase it real briefly, started when I started going to Integrated, which again, I just said was 3 years ago, be 3 years in February. And Jeremy Pryor, who has written a book, who helps run Integrated, has written a book called Family Revisions, which I highly recommend, and basically decided 20 years ago, hey, the Jewish people live a certain way and Christians live a completely opposite way.
Right.
If we're following Jesus, who was a Jew, I feel like there should be some overlap.
Right.
And so, and he also just sort of saw the hyper individualism of family coming down the line and wanted to fight against it wholeheartedly within his family structure and his family team. And that's why family teams exist.
Yeah.
And so they do an incredible job of just like giving your family an identity and a culture and hopefully a legacy that lasts through generations.
Yeah.
That people understand in your family, your family's history and your family story and all that kind of stuff. And so, but within that, he started taking and practicing Sabbath and then researching it. And so, you know, what's crazy is like Integrated is full of guys who do this like really well and have been doing it for a long time. Like some guys have been doing it for a decade. And, you know, like you said at the beginning, like it can just be a refresher because we talk about it at every Integrated.
Right.
No matter what, we talk about the 7-day rhythm. And so essentially the 7-day rhythm is not man-made, it is God created. So God created the earth in 7 days, on 6 days, and then on the 7th day he rested. It has nothing to do with the moon or the tides or anything that like the month is sort of based off of the moon patterns. Like if you research it, the year is based off of how many times, you know, how long it takes to go around the sun. You know, there are elements of that in nature that God has created. God has created time for us, or ways for us to tell time. But the 7 days is
Sort of a standalone.
Sort of a standalone. And so historically, there have been times in history where leaders have tried to make 10 days or 5 days
a week.
And it has like crashed productivity and like mental illness rose. And it's just like, it's just,
People literally fall apart.
yeah.
Trying to have a week that's not on a 7-day rhythm.
Yeah. And so this 7-day rhythm is super, super powerful. And it is a gift given to us by God.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is mirrored out in the creation story. And so we have, as believers and followers of Jesus, we have the opportunity to unwrap that gift.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how I've always approached it now, after 3 years, when people ask me about it, is like, if God is giving me a gift, I want to unwrap it. Like if
I'm not going to be like, oh, thanks.
I'm
going to let it sit right here and wonder what's inside.
I like to think that I'm a pretty good dad to my girls. And the second I have anything wrapped in, I'm like, here, this is for you.
Mm-hmm.
They're not like, oh, thanks, Dad, but I'm good. I don't want whatever's inside. I'll put it on the shelf, or I'll store it away, or I'll put it like in the back of my closet. I might even just take a video on the stories to prove this point. Like, they will unwrap it so incredibly fast.
Yeah.
And not only will they unwrap it, they will unwrap it, get it out of the packaging, and be playing with it within
implement it. Yes.
seconds.
Yeah.
And so our God is a good father and has given us this gift of the 7-day rhythm and the gift of Sabbath. And so many of us choose to leave it wrapped, put it on the shelf, hide it away, or we unwrap it and we just like think, oh yeah, that's for someone else. That's not for me because of my schedule, because of where I work, because of the type of family I grew up in, because of the church I go to, because of the sports we have, all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And so I know all these excuses because I made all these excuses.
Yeah.
And some of them are very valid and some of them are hard to get around. And some of you will feel like your butt clench and you're sort of like bracing for impact. TJ, you don't understand my situation because of this, and this. And I don't. And I'm not trying to sell you Sabbath.
Right.
I am not a Sabbath salesman. I'm someone who has unwrapped the gift.
Yes.
And continues to try to unwrap it every week.
Mm-hmm.
And so all I want to do is encourage you to unwrap the gift.
Yeah.
And because it will drastically change your life.
If you put it into practice, if you do it.
Yeah. And I know that seems weird, or that could seem weird, or like, how is that going to change my life, or all this kind of stuff. But like, I've seen it time and time again with people who listen to the podcast, with people in Integrated, within myself, that like Sabbath changes everything. And that's the phrase that we use over and over again. Mm-hmm. And so the idea is that you set aside a day for rest and worship, and then that starts to change your whole week. So if you put a stake in the ground, like for us, our Sabbath starts on Friday night with our Shabbat dinner, and then it ends on Saturday night. And so that is our stake.
It's like 24 hours, but it goes from a Friday into a Saturday.
It really goes Friday into Sunday, but like if we need to do something on Saturday night, we will.
Yeah.
And so, it starts with putting a stake on the ground. And what you'll see happen, and we've talked about this before, is like, okay, so now Sabbath is this day. It's this day of rest. Like what we noticed very early on was like, we can't rest well if our house is messy. So then Friday became a day that
Which is when I started cleaning on Fridays. It's classic backwards time math.
Yep.
We need to be at the movie at what time? Okay, we're getting we're getting out of the car to walk into the theater, which means we're driving at this point, which means I'm showering at this point, which means I'm waking up. We're late, but it's fine.
The movie's in 2 weeks, Brooke.
Yeah,
we're
fine.
late.
It's fine. It's really fine.
We'll catch up.
Yeah. I started cleaning on Fridays, and then eventually we got to the point, which was like a little like side thing, like, oh, maybe somebody else could do this task now, and that was a separate thing, but it was still based on Friday. And so Friday was cleaning. Friday wasn't the day I was finishing up other non-cleaning things.
Yeah.
That gets moved to Thursday.
Right. And
you
then
just keep backing up.
But then it also started to change Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So if Saturday is our day of rest, what does Sunday look like? And so for us, it was like, okay, we go to church, but then what does the rest of the day look like? Because a lot of people will do Sabbath or their day of rest on Sunday. So church will be included in that, which is great if that works for you.
Some people.
And so Sunday,
getting kids out the door to church is not a day of rest for me.
Yeah. But that's okay. Like if that's the only day you have and that part isn't great, so be it. Not all Sabbaths are this like peaceful, holy moment of like Jesus wind blowing through the door and opening up your Bible to the exact right page. Like, you know, it is what it is, especially if you have seasons of young children or like, you know, whatever. And so as Sunday was like, okay, what do we do after church? Okay, well, let's set up for the week. We called it set up for success Sunday. And then I told Brad Ellis from Ellis Custom Creations about that. And he told his wife, Catherine, and Catherine calls them set them up Sundays.
Yeah. She's like, the name needs to be shorter. And I said, Catherine, you and I are going to be best friends.
Yeah, which was accurate. So now it's set them up Sundays. And what we do is we do set them ups. So how are we going to set us up for the week? In terms so again, this
laundry,
is
organizing, grocery
groceries,
shopping,
all that kind of stuff. So again, this is just like a little just bloop into how Sabbath will start to change the way you live.
Yeah.
And then what's really cool is like as you start to develop this weekly rhythm that's anchored by Sabbath, you start to see like, okay, Tuesday doesn't work for us. It is chaotic. We feel stressed. We go to bed mad. Every Tuesday we get in a fight. What is happening in that day of our rhythm? And so you start to tinker with it. And then it also shows you what really matters and like what rises to the surface. And so like, am I reading every 7 days? Am I painting every 7 days? Am I exercising every 7 days? Are those things finding a place and a home in the rhythm? Like a lot of guys in integrated have what they call tough Tuesdays, where it's like Tuesdays, they work like 12 hours. They know that, their wives know that, their kids know that they set up all their calls on those days.
Yeah.
And so it's like that is known. And so that just becomes a point in the rhythm and everybody's on the same page. It's when we feel this sort of like chaos of just like, what is happening? What are we doing with our hands?
What are we doing?
That we just feel like, man, my life is out of control and chaotic. And that's what Sabbath does. It realigns us to this rhythmic living that we then can repeat and tinker with and repeat and tinker with. Jeff has this great illustration in his book, To Hell with the Hustle, where like a lot of people look at time as just this straight line. Like I'm going from point A to point B. And if
calls that the bucket list life.
Yeah. And like, I just need
headed this way and hope it gets better.
Yeah.
And
we're really like life is more of like a circle moving sideways where it's like
along the line.
We're living in this rhythm. And as we live in this rhythm, we're moving forward, but we're doing it in a much more healthy, sustainable way rather than just like burnout, and so, you start to notice that. And that all is because of taking a Sabbath. Like you might think I'm talking about just like a general schedule, but all this stuff has been naturally birthed into our lives because we dedicated one day to Sabbath.
Yeah. I mean, the difference between a rhythm and a schedule is, in my opinion, and how I would define it, is a schedule is time-based. Like you can be late to a schedule. Yeah. Like, you know, what time's the movie at? What time is it scheduled at? And that is very different than living rhythmically, which is just making sure like what you have to do and your priorities are on your day or on your week. And then you just roll through it and make it happen. It's not super time specific. Yeah. Because I think some people hear that and they're like, well, I don't want every week to be the same. And I'm like, wow, I could not, no 2 weeks of mine are the same ever. Right. And we have lived this way for over 3 years now. Yeah. And so it's not this hard, cold, like
religious line in the sand.
It's not just like, and on Tuesdays at 10, it's this, and then it's this, and then it's that. And it's just like, nobody wants that. And that's not what it is.
And it's like, so something I've been, I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, I just think people, like, I think some people are like, well, I don't want that. And so they throw the baby out with the bathwater and they don't do anything. Yeah. And then they wonder why, they feel panicked and swirly and anxious, and why nothing that actually matters to them ever gets done or is ever made a priority. Yeah. It's like, well, I'm not totally surprised.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I've been sort of wrestling with lately is like, this is a common question. Well, I'll do some of the common questions we get at the end, but this is definitely one of the common ones is like, okay, what about kids sports? What about kids sports? What do we do about kids sports if they're on Saturday and Sunday? Right. And so like, thankfully, right now our girls don't play sports. June is 7, Sunny's 4, Daisy's 1. We're not playing any sports. 2, and this is really something I've been wrestling with, is like, I don't know if sports are going to be for us, like traditional organized sports.
Yeah,
I don't know if they're going to be the right fit for the way our family wants to live.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people might just feel like, well, what are they going to do then? How are they going to learn? But, like we jump into like, that's the way everything goes. Like, it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I don't live for like, we're not living just the way it is because that's the way it is. We need to live we need to live oriented to God, not oriented to the earth. Like,
right.
We have eyes up, not eyes down.
Yeah.
And so, but this is sort of where I'm wrestling with. And again, we haven't made any decisions. Our kids, the thing they love to do the most is scooter around the neighborhood and skateboard around the neighborhood. So like we can do that any day. Like, we don't need to organize for that.
Yeah.
What
you're saying is this is not an anti-kid sports speech you're about to give. This is just
no.
Maybe if you haven't thought about this, think about this.
Yeah, it's just like the same way we talk about how does technology play a role in our children's lives and in our lives.
What's our mission statement for our technology in our life?
Sort of mission statements about like what do we do when sports and Sabbath collide? Yeah. What does that look like? Are we asking hard questions? Are we are we more worried about what our friends might say because our kids don't play soccer anymore, or are we more worried about what God might say because we honor the Sabbath and keep it holy?
Right.
Again.
And I think something that helps me, and again, I'm not anti-kid sports. I could see maybe Sonny enjoying them at some point in life. Yeah. But
like MMA or boxing or kickboxing, Krav Maga,
right,
jiu-jitsu,
Krav Maga,
American Gladiator.
Who says? Which book is it that says like we're not trying to? I'm gonna butcher this. We're not trying to raise whatever. We're trying to raise healthy 50-year-olds.
Parenting with heart essentially says that.
Like to have this longer term vision for the way our parenting is and the type of kids we're trying to raise. And I'm not saying that soccer might not have been important to you, but like when I think about June as a 50-year-old or even a 35-year-old, maybe with kids, I don't know if soccer every Saturday is going to be the reason she is who she is then.
Exactly.
Maybe.
And that's what I was getting at.
And again, I'm not trying. I'm not speaking super black and white. I just like
we're gonna lose ground in Slovenia because they love their
soccer.
But that's what I was getting at is like our kids will need to have the habit of resting their entire lives from the time they're born until they die at hopefully a ripe old age. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, are we teaching them that matters now when they're impressionable and they learn their habits and they're like the grooves in their brain, or are we teaching them that sports overall? And then what happens when you turn 16 and you're not a savant, or you turn 18 and you can't play in college, or you're not that good? Like
my whole life is devoted to volleyball. Now what?
And
literally,
people go through that. And so there is an element of just like asking those hard questions of like, and this has sort of been the way I've been wrestling with it is like, my kids will need to rest their whole lives. They won't play organized sports their whole lives. Yeah. Will my kids do athletic things their whole lives? Hopefully. Like, will they be engaged physically in the world and exercise and enjoy outdoor activity? Like, yes, I'm hoping for all those things. Yeah. But the organizational, like competitions level sports, that's just a small season where rest is a lifetime. And so that is where I've been like sort of just in my own mind, talking about it to myself and to the Lord. Like, what does that look like? How do we navigate that? And it's getting harder and harder because culture is putting less and less emphasis. Like, things used to be closed on Sunday. I never played school sports on Sunday. Yeah, like it just wasn't an option. It didn't happen. And now they're every weekend, all weekend long. Like, and so it definitely it's putting more pressure on believers as to like, this is where the rubber hits the road, and what does that look like? And so that's in the
world, but not of it in a sense.
Yeah.
And something I'm learning and being reminded of, I feel like in multiple places in my reading and just things that I'm like, listening to, is how like you kept saying, maybe we need to ask hard questions. How as parents, that is our job. That is parenting. We are the ones that are supposed to be asking the hard questions, and we are the ones that have the responsibility to do that. I'm not saying you always ask them directly to your kid and have the conversation for the first time in front of them, but just like, it is our responsibility to do that. I don't think it's 100% on our kids to be like, I don't know, do you want to play? Yeah. And then let them pick, because I'm not trying to pick on sports, but it's just
it's just a great,
it is an all consuming thing for so many people. And then you've got everybody's sports schedules. Everybody's individualized all the time. And I just think.
And so then you end up at, 40 and your kids have no family sort of connection because they've lived this super hyper individualistic life
Yeah.
for 18 years. And then you wonder why, hey, they never visit, or they don't come back, or we don't feel like we're on the same page, or we can't communicate, or like,
Yeah.
and so it's like we are having these conversations now in hopes to avoid the family just kind of crumbling into individuals in the future, which is happening so frequently and so often in culture.
Absolutely.
And it's so sad. And, and it's just like, I just don't want that. I don't want that for my family. And I certainly don't want it. Like, I know you probably don't want it for your family. And so all that to say, this, like, I know we're talking about family and school sports and all this kind of stuff, but like,
right. But the school sports suddenly, or the school or whatever, organized sports suddenly matter because we're coming from the place of Sabbath is changing everything.
Yes.
Everything.
Yeah.
We did syllables in school today.
Yeah.
Everything. Three syllables. Open or closed. We'll figure that out. Yeah, I think going back to Sabbath specifically, the literal day. People are like, what do I do all day? Like, one, I don't think you need to be as worried about it as you think.
I got a verse for you.
Okay. It's like, it's not just laying around all day doing nothing, at least in my opinion, but it's also not like, it should look different from your other days.
100%.
And when it starts to not look, because we're already home all the time, we already do a lot of the things we enjoy. We already go to the beach. And so when I start to feel like my Sabbath is not feeling any different from any other day, as far as what I'm actually doing, now my posture is different, but if my actions aren't at least a little bit different, I start to feel an internal like swirl of, this feels the same. I need to change something. And lately, interestingly enough, what I've needed to change is not my Sabbath. I needed to change my week. And actually, I'm not one to preach this, but I'm speaking only specifically to myself right now, which is I actually needed to work harder, which was like, it felt the same because I wasn't the one working and we didn't have Abby. And so I felt like every day's the same and I'm just mushing around.
Right. You needed to reestablish the rhythm.
The rhythm of like.
To show that Sabbath is a day of rest
yes.
and worship, and it's different.
Yes.
It's set apart, set above.
Absolutely. And so I read recently that we cannot run if we do not rest.
Yeah.
And that is so accurate and true, especially if you're back to sports, literally running.
Yeah.
You can't just like, I don't know, start running the day you graduate high school and not stop.
Yeah.
Like you will die early. Your legs will fall off. I don't know what will happen, but it sounds awful.
Yeah.
And so that's true in motherhood and in marriage and in anything. Like if we do not rest, intentionally choosing it repeatedly, like we will not be able to run. And I don't even mean running for the wrong things. I'm talking about running for the things that do matter.
Yeah.
The things that are priorities to us that we do want to be intentional about.
Because it's like in that rest, you can have those conversations with God and with yourself and with your spouse of like, okay, what is the role of technology in our lives?
Yeah.
What is our family mission, family vision? What do we do? What are we working for? What do we like? What are we trying to do? Like even just that, because if you're just sprinting have you ever tried to run and have a conversation with someone, literally physically, like just running next to someone?
It's why I don't ever invite anybody to run with me because I can't. I can't talk and run at the same time.
It's super hard.
It's super hard.
Yeah.
I can't think.
And so I would say that, like, again, back to your question, what does Sabbath look like? Because this is a question where people are like, they feel very like, am I going to do it wrong? That
right.
And we're embarrassed to do things wrong. No one likes doing anything wrong. And so this verse in Colossians is so good. Therefore, do not let anyone judge you by what you eat or drink, or with regard to a religious festival, a new moon celebration, or a Sabbath day. These are a shadow of the things that were to come. The reality, however, is found in Christ. And so, like, I think that within the Christian world, there can be a lot of judgment, like, oh, you do it that way. Oh, you do it that way. Oh, you do it that. I mean, that's just not even just within the Christian world, but within the world at large. But then Christianity can have sort of this weird, like, extra layer of it. And so, like, therefore, let no one judge you by what you eat or drink, or with regard to a religious festival, a new moon celebration, or a Sabbath. Therefore, do not let anyone judge you by what you eat or drink, or with regard to a Sabbath.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, when Jeremy read that verse to us at Integrated, I was just like, okay, so it might look a little different than his. It might look a little different than Jordan's, or than,
because our families are different.
And then I think that there's this idea that, like, okay, on Sabbath, I'm gonna put on like a tan tunic and I'm going to be barefoot and I'm just going to drink water and bread all day and like just pray and not listen to any music. And I definitely won't entertain myself in any way. And my
Right.
kids better be quiet because like they can't have, like, that is so far off what Sabbath was created for.
Yeah.
Like, and so in John Mark's book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, which is a great place to start if you're looking for like a Sabbath book. Rest and War by Ben Stewart is another great one. To Hell with the Hustle by Beth Gee. Family Revisions by Jeremy Pryor. Like, those are all great places. The 7-Day Family e-course on family teams.
Yeah.
Walk in Love gives you a discount. Use the code Walk in Love. I think it's 20%. So in his book, he says the Hebrew word Shabbat means to stop, but it can also be translated to delight. It has this dual idea of stopping and also joining, and also of joying in God and our lives in His world. The Sabbath is an entire day set aside to follow God's example, to stop and delight. And then in another book by David Wilbur called A Christian Guide to Biblical Feasts, he said, God did not intend the Sabbath to be a burden, but rather a time of joy. The Bible says that blessing comes when we honor the Sabbath and call it a delight, Isaiah 58:13. Yeshua said the Sabbath was made for our benefit, Mark 2:27. So enjoy it and give thanks to God for giving us rest.
Yeah.
And so the guy, like, we have an integrated Slack channel where we're always, people are always giving their opinions. I feel like one of the best descriptions a guy gave on that channel one time when he was talking about, he's like, I want Sabbath to feel like a snow day. And so if you grew up in the Northeast, a snow day, or like anywhere.
It's a snow day. Did you check? Did you get the phone call? Did you check the TV?
Like,
Go to school.
There was this element of freedom, of just
Yes.
like, there's nothing planned. I can play outside. I'm probably going to get some hot cocoa.
Yeah.
Like, we'll probably watch a movie. Like there is this element of like snow day excitement that should be associated with the Sabbath. And so we, as parents, have the incredible gift of giving that to our children every week.
Yeah.
So for us, a Sabbath is a family movie. For us, a Sabbath is you get to watch the rest of that movie or a different movie on Saturday morning. It's the only day you get to watch a movie in the morning.
Yeah.
And so they wake up and they're ready to go.
Oh,
For
Saturday
us,
morning movie. They're like,
Sabbath is a trip to the beach where we just can sit there and be still and dig holes and play games and run around and jump in the water and snorkel and like just do all these things. And if we don't do that, it's a night where we go to Chick-fil-A for dinner. Like,
it doesn't always look the same, but the heart behind it and the reason behind we're doing what we do on a Sabbath is that we are aiming to delight and be joyful and put into practice and make a priority things that we delight in.
Yeah.
And that is the beach. And sometimes it's a tray of nachos.
Yeah. Most times it's a tray of nachos.
Most times it's a tray of nachos.
And so I guess, like, the series is starting with technically the life-changing habit of deciding once, but let your first decision in deciding once be to take a Sabbath, because it will change you and your family and your relationships and your spouse. And like, it will have this incredible Holy Spirit power in your life because it was created by God. Like, He created it for us. It is a gift that we can unwrap and enjoy. And I'm just going to challenge you to set aside the next month to take a Sabbath every week for the next month. So we're heading into November. I think this episode actually comes out on the last day of October.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
this is a challenge to you. And if you, and again, one of the main things I think, so let me just challenge you, take a Sabbath in November, Saturday or Sunday. If that works for your schedule and your work. If you have a weird sort of nurse's schedule, and it's not weird, but like that's one of the main questions we get is like, what do I do if I'm a nurse?
And it's never
the same, or I work on weekends or whatever. Just like, look at November, open it up with your spouse or, your family and say, okay, our Sabbaths are this day, and this day.
Yeah.
And if it's like 12 hours on that day, because that's all that works, you delight in rest in those 12 hours. You make those 12 hours the best snow day for your kids. And just tell them again and again, this is a Sabbath. This is a gift. Like, we sit down for our family Friday night Shabbat meal, and I say, what is it? What is this meal for? What does this meal start? And they say, Sabbath. What is Sabbath for? It's for rest. And so we go over that every week. And again, like, as our kids get older and older, we can add more liturgy to the Sabbath and Shabbat. And like a lot of guys in integrated have it really built out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my challenge to you because and it's not a challenge like, oh, like, you know, like let's get fit together and like, let's do this thing together. It's
encouragement. It's an encouragement challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, I just know 3 years in what it feels like. And 1 month in, I was already starting to see, like you could see, like, you know, if you squint, oh, I think I could see how this
It's getting a little clearer out
this
there.
works out. And then 3
Yeah.
years in, I'm squinting to 5 years and then 10 years. And then I'm squinting to the point where my daughters are 16 and 17 and we're still having Shabbat dinner every week. The power that we'll have in their lives over a lifetime is incredible.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, just like every gift from God, as we receive it, we start to see the layers of it affect our lives in more and more powerful ways.
Yeah.
And so this is one of those gifts that at first it might be a challenge. It might be frustrating. You might feel like, gosh, I'm not good at this, or my husband doesn't like it, or we're not on the same page. But as you tinker and tweak and you know, and slowly start to see it form.
It's not set it and forget it.
No. You'll see this incredible, powerful tool, powerful gift just bless you.
Yeah.
And that's what the Sabbath is. It is just an absolute blessing to you and to your family and to your life.
Yeah. I have 2 more things I wanted to add. We almost made it without crying. We made it over an hour. But,
very good. That's for you, Slovenia.
Once heard somebody describe Sabbath as, this is kind of like a practical, like, okay, so what does it look like for me, or what could it look like for me? It's a day where you lay down your tools. And so if, you know, so like for us, we work on our phones and our computers and on social media a lot. Those are the tools we use to do our work. And so on a Sabbath, we lay those down.
Yep.
Literally, physically, often leaving our phone in places. For somebody else who maybe works literally with tools as a job, it's a day you're not doing it. It's not the day that
you want to come to our house and build us
Here's
built-ins.
You know, it's not the day that you go from building a back porch from somebody else as your actual job to then maybe checking that off of your list.
Yeah.
I guess maybe it could happen if it truly brings you joy and delight, but that's, you know, you start to be like, oh, it's fine. I'll just do that. Like really protect it. And maybe just to start, think about, okay, what are the tools we use for work and throughout the week? You and your spouse, write them down and then be like, what would it look like if we laid those down? And then if it helps you to actually write it or talk about it, if this is the tool, what is the opposite? What does it look like if we don't use that for a day? For somebody who's maybe on their phone all the time making sales calls and your kids notice that, it's maybe not a day where you're on the phone at all. And like that will feel different to your kids. Yeah. So that was the one thing I wanted to say, which we had talked about the first time. And then the other thing is I do strongly believe that Sabbath, like almost any good practice, is that it does have this compounding effect.
100%.
And so I read the other week somebody giving the example of how they were exhausted and tired and whatever. And their therapist was like, okay, well, like, are you still resting? Are you still practicing all the like good? Are you taking care of yourself? And she was like, yeah, I am. I don't feel like it's doing anything, but I'm doing it because I know that it matters. So, okay. You know? And then the example given then was like, you know how when your phone dies and you have to charge it and you plug it in, and it is charging.
But it gives you that little icon.
But it's like, you can't use it. It's still just a black screen with the little charging thing. And you're like, I have to wait till it gets so far charged to actually turn on and be usable again. And I think there is if you've been running and running and running and running and running and running, and you're running to the point where your life battery, your inside battery is almost dead, you know, I don't think one Sabbath is going to be your fix all.
And honestly, not even a month of it.
No, and that's unfair to put that on the practice.
Yeah.
That if you've run your whole life and you've never done this, and then you're looking for a quick fix, and it's not that. Yeah. It is the best fix, and it is a long-term fix. But like, so if you feel like you're on week 6 or week 10, maybe your phone just still isn't turned back on. That's your phone of life,
really,
or
really
your your insides, or whatever the phone is for you.
But then what's cool is like, and I've noticed this, is like your body will literally start to expect the day. And so come Friday afternoon,
even like late afternoon,
like around 4 dinner time, like right before dinner time, I honestly start to feel like
you get all schlumpy. It's like your body knows.
My body knows. And like, honestly, like sometimes I'll just fall asleep, just like sitting there.
Yeah.
And it's like my body is ready for the rest. And it's like
Yes.
anticipating the rest.
Yes.
And honestly, and then this is the last thing I'll say, like, again, back to the no judgment thing, because like we've been doing this for 3 years. So, you know, we might seem like we have it all figured out, but we don't.
Oh,
We're
gosh,
still
no.
tinkering with it. We're still, you know, trying new things and figuring out what works and doesn't work. And then there are days where like we just don't do it. Like that happens every now and then.
It does
like,
happen every
it
once in
won't
a while.
like this week. I won't take one. I'll be rocking out.
Hey,
You know,
that could be your
that
Sabbath.
could be my Sabbath.
Yeah.
And then another great piece of advice from someone in Integrated, he was just like, just go to birthday parties. Like it'll throw off your Sabbath, but like,
Oh yeah.
you know, like
what if it's a priority
yeah.
to me, but not to an extended
Yeah.
family member?
Go to
and they
birthday
have their
parties,
7-year-old's party.
celebrate the 7-year-old or the 10-year-old or
Celebrate,
whatever. Like
delight.
just, you know, and then it's
Hop right back in.
Yeah.
Just don't be that. What's the word? Like legalistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I would love to know, like, so again, challenge is just to do it for a month. And hopefully once you start to see that, you'll start to squint and see that like, oh, this is really going to benefit us. And then 2, just like tell us like, like the day after Sabbath, when you turn your phone back on or whatever, like whatever your practice is, like we'd love to know what worked and what didn't work. And maybe we'll share some of them or, you know, I don't know, but I would just like, again, like, I'm so like, I could talk about it every week. And I think,
well, you could make a subscriber chat, which again, as we all know, is not going to expire for 24 hours, but of like, I'm going to do it this coming week.
Yeah.
And people could talk about it, or I did it last week and people could talk about it. That'd be cool.
Because I just think like, again, it's just such a huge benefit to life and to your soul. And so I will just continue to talk about it for the rest of my life because I've seen the benefits and we're just scratching the surface. Again, I feel like it's like that bell curve where it's like, oh, you're just here. And then whoosh, you know, and I just feel like we're even still just here after 3 years. But I've seen some of the guys in Integrated who are there, they're like here, you know, and I'm just like, man, I want that. I want that for my family and my relationships. And like, and so, yeah, again, take a Sabbath.
Mm-hmm.
Let me end with that. So any final words?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
That was a lot.
That was a lot. Over an hour. I haven't done that in a while. Wow.
Wow. My final unrelated to Sabbath plug would be like, if you're on the fence about subscribing to Instagram, just try it because I'm so into it as the person who like, as somebody who people are subscribing to.
And we feel like we haven't even like,
oh gosh, I feel like I haven't even gotten started because it was like, you know, October, it was just crazy with all the collection stuff.
We actually have, so Instagram just allowed us to share 3 subscriber posts as previews.
Oh.
So I have 3 posts up there. One is like 2 of them are sort of show the giveaway. And then the third one shows like the monthly meeting that we are trying to do to show you guys, not that we're trying to do that, we're trying to record and share to show you guys kind of the vibe of that. And maybe give you some inspiration onto what your month could be like or what you could focus on. So yeah, that's a good plug. Solid plug.
Yeah. It's kind of a low barrier of entry.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that much. So like, I think it's fun to try.
And you're definitely going to want it in November.
Especially if you listen to the podcast.
Yes.
You need that early access. Trust me.
So thank you for listening. Let us know how your Sabbath is going. And if you're going to take us up on the challenge, I would love to know that. Say, hey, I'm going to try it in November.
Yeah.
I would love to know that. That would be very encouraging to me.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making us a part of your week.
Okay, I love you. Bye.